Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live virtual conference with Our Hometown. My name is Matt Larson, President and CEO of Our Hometown. And today we're going to be discussing getting started with podcasts. And for this session, we've got a very special guest with us today. He's the editor and publisher of HenricoCitizen.com, Tom Lappas. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
All right, great to have you back. We've had several sessions with Tom, several interviews, talked about podcasts before, but today we're really trying to gear it towards getting started in this space. We've got a bunch of publishers joining us, and I want to get to them and hear their story. So if you all could try to locate the questions area right now and type a message, just say hello, give us your name, and maybe just tell us the paper that you're with. And so we're going to dig into it in just a second here and look at Tom's process for creating his podcast. But before we get into that, Tom, could you just give us some background on Henrico Citizen and how you kind of took the publication into podcasting?
Yeah, sure. So very briefly, I started the Citizen 19 years ago, September of 2001. And we had been a twice monthly print product. And then gradually over the years, of course, we ramped up our online presence. And we had become almost sort of a quasi daily website, I would say, in the last couple years. But, when COVID hit, we basically abandoned our print product. We lost a majority of our print advertisers, and we just couldn't make it work. So we transitioned to fully digital. Back last December, I had started my podcast, the Henrico News Minute, just as a way to kind of reach people differently in a different format. I had never tried podcasting. I didn't know anything about it. And I'm somebody who likes to feel like I have at least a pretty decent understanding of something before I jump into it. So
Sure.
I finally spent, a couple of days just looking into how to start a podcast, very basic. And started to make a go of it. I bought some inexpensive equipment and finally opened GarageBand on my Mac for the first time ever, and found that it was pretty intuitive to use, and we've just kind of gone from there.
Right. Very cool. Perfect background, really all around, because we're going to talk about GarageBand, getting started with that. I mean, it's really a magical experience with that product and all, I would say Mac editing tools like iMovie. You just start up a project and get going. You can learn it very quickly. If you're just a slight bit curious, you can figure it out. So we'll definitely take a look at the interface for that and how Tom puts the episode together every week. So I've only gotten a couple questions so far, but we've got a lot of attendees. So I just want to make sure you all heard. I'd like you to drop your name and a quick hello in the questions area. We've got Fairbanks, Alaska calling in. See, this is the magic of the virtual conference. But we've got a bunch of other attendees that haven't said anything yet. So please drop a quick hello in there in the paper that you're with. So just as a quick outline here, Tom gave his introduction, and that's the feature of today, is to discuss the Henrico News Minute podcast. But I've got a couple other things lined up in case we have time towards the end, talking about some other ways to get into audio with a really cool tool called audio articles, a process that we've developed at Our Hometown for turning audio articles into audio editions for automated podcasting. Also, if we have some time, I'd like to talk about what the Wave, a newspaper, is doing with Rockaway Fridays with the Wave. It's a weekly podcast video show. Talk about some of the interesting things they're doing there. So again, please type your questions, locate the questions box. If you have any questions, you can drop them in there now, but please at least drop your name and newspaper. Hello, Glenn. Hello, Nick, Emily. Welcome, everyone. Okay, great. Emily, good to see you from Southern Utah, our newest customer joining us. Okay, great. Glenn from Michigan. Okay, good to see you. So if you could all take a second and let us know how much, whoops, I didn't update this slide correctly. Audio content do you put out for your paper? Do you put something out daily, like the Henrico News Minute? It's pretty much as frequently as any newspaper could realistically do, or are you somewhere just like kind of randomly putting out audio files? Just give us an idea of where you're at in this process, so we can kind of speak to each of where you're at. Okay, so now let's switch back to Tom, and I might turn over control of the screen to you now, actually, because maybe what I was thinking, Tom, is you could walk us through like the user experience for getting to the Henrico News Minute. Maybe we start there.
Sure, be happy to.
Okay, cool.
Let me figure out how to do this. Hang on one sec.
Oh, I'm gonna need to. Oh yeah, I think you are actually. There you go.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, the process is pretty easy, I think. And again, this is coming from somebody who had never done podcasts before. But so you're looking at GarageBand. When you open it up, none of this stuff is here. But each of these is just an audio file. And so what I do when you open it up, you can get started right away. Just click this red button to record, and I'll do it right now so you can see. It's going to record. It's going to show you, hey, I'm recording this little segment down here.
Right.
Stop it whenever you want to stop it, and then you just drag and drop it and move it around. Let me.
Right.
So now I have this audio file. I can put it wherever I want to. And the way that I have been doing this podcast, it's basically, so it's a daily weekday podcast. I do it Monday through Friday.
Right.
It's typically anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes. I try to keep it brief. The idea was, for people who don't have an hour to listen to a podcast, but they want to know what's happening in their community, and maybe they're not on our website every single day to read every article that we post.
Right.
The idea was, let me summarize our articles, everything that we've published in the last 24 hours, and do it in a way that people can digest it, however differently than a typical website reader would do.
Right. Now, can I ask you a quick question, actually? But before you go on with this, I want to come back to the production process, but can you just show us how they get to an episode? Like, they go to henricocitizen.com, and then you usually post an article, right?
That's right. So let me...
I just want to see the actual podcast interface, because we have, looks like Nick does a weekly audio podcast. So, Nick, let us know what platform you're using. I think we both use Buzzsprout for that. Be interested to know what you use, but it looks like everyone else is just getting started. Okay, so this is the interface. Okay.
Yeah, we use Buzzsprout, and I find it very easy. I'm sure there are other sites that do it very similarly, but it's like $12 a month. Very easy to just log in, and I'll show you over here. This is my backend section. You literally just click this button. It'll let you upload your file, and then you're good to go. And then they appear here. And what I do is I then embed them on our site. So, people can just go to our site. It's embedded there. We're getting the direct traffic, the benefits of that. Just makes the whole process a lot easier. They have a setup here where you can, very easily click on any of these to get listed on all of these different platforms. They've kind of made it simple. You don't have to know anything about really what you're doing, and they kind of do it for you. So that's been very nice. Yeah, and the listing takes anywhere from like a day to maybe a week at most, and then you're on all these major platforms. Which has been great for us. So
gotcha.
Yeah, so they're all archived. You can what we do is every morning we send out an email to our subscriber base saying, here's the new News Minute. Click to listen. So there's that direct piece. Of course, we're posting it on Facebook and Twitter. Just however we can, however we can reach folks.
Gotcha.
And, and I would say we've developed a nice core group of listeners who every day are tuning in. Some days there's more, some days a little bit less, but that core group is there consistently. And it's not thousands of people, but it's a couple hundred. And to me, that makes
listening every day.
Yeah. And so, I think to me that makes it feel worthwhile. If it were 10, maybe I feel a little different, but you have to start somewhere. It's grown a little bit, and you plateau, and then I think you kind of figure out sort of what your base group of listeners it looks like.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, no, I can get into kind of how I do it again if you're ready for that, or
Yeah, I think I do want to see that, but I also just want to give people a feel for what it actually sounds like. So let's do a quick demonstration here. This is a really cool feature. I can go to Siri and just ask to play it. Now watch this. Play the Henrico News Minute. Okay. So you've got this cool like radio intro. Since 2001. This is the Henrico. So let's break down this structure a little bit here. If you want to share your screen again and just show us in GarageBand in a recent episode, just play a little bit of it. This will kind of see both at once. So
yeah,
first of all, you got a couple tracks in GarageBand here, right? That's
right. So over here you've got every different track basically, and I can delete this, I can add a new one. And GarageBand, the nice thing is that it's connected automatically to iTunes. So any audio that you have in your iTunes on your computer automatically is going to appear over here. So this is the list of every audio file that I've got in my iTunes. You just click up here on audio,
right.
Click on media, click on music, and now it's going to show me everything that I've got here. So
okay.
What I've done is, different advertisers that I've got, I'll individually record their 15 or 30-second ad.
Okay.
Export it, and I'll show you how to do that in a second, and then import it to iTunes, and then it shows up here. So anytime I want to use an ad for this company, let's say B&W Builders, I just click it, I drag it over here, and I drop it.
Right.
And now I've got this audio file, and I put it wherever I want to. And so basically, this marker, you're starting on the left-hand side, of course. When I push play, anything vertically is going to play. So the first thing it's going to come to is my opener here.
Right.
I'll play.
From the Lakeside Newsroom of the Henrico Citizen.
Right. And so then, wherever I position anything else it's going to play that. So these tracks here is just kind of like the background,
like music
that I've got, and over here is the volume. I keep the volume low on that because I don't want it drowning out, what I'm saying, but I want people to still hear it. It's a little upbeat. It, gives them a sense that this is not going to go on for 50 minutes.
Right. Yeah,
then,
I think it's a good format for that.
Yeah, and then these are just little transitional pieces that I have kind of like a swooshing sound. So between each article or each story that I'm reading, I just insert little things. So basically, it's just a drag and drop situation. So here's my first piece of audio. This is my intro that I am telling folks, what the top stories are today.
Right.
And I've got this little intro. Then here's my top story.
Right.
Another slider. And with this little slider here, you can zoom in or zoom out. So sometimes you want to be precise. I want to know exactly where this ends. I'm going to line it up exactly. And then I can pull back if I want to move a bunch of things around more easily.
Right.
What I do is a combination of, sometimes if I have a short article that we posted on our site, I'll read the whole article. I just record it. It becomes a segment like this. I plop it where I want it, and I'm done. Sometimes the article may be a little longer, and then I'm just kind of summarizing part of it. And I like the fact that you can do that because, I don't think in this format, I don't want to just read every article verbatim. I want to give people sort of, I kind of look at this as, a top of the hour news update like you would hear on the radio, except it's a little bit extended and it's more specific just to our locality.
Right.
The really, again, I really like this program because you can do things like, let's say I recorded this segment, but I don't want to use, I screwed something up here at the end. So I'm going to zoom in.
Yep.
I'm going to take this and I'm just going to drag it back here. And now you only hear up to this part. And now I can restart again. I can move my marker here, and I would do this somewhere else. But if I wanted to record it right there,
to read. Okay.
I place my marker and I just hit record again, and now it's going to start recording from that point on. So it's very Yeah, it's very intuitive. It's very simple. A lot of
Cool.
times when I'm doing this, I'll screw something up halfway through a story. So I'll keep the part that was good,
Right.
cut it, and then just add the other part. And then you can just highlight the parts that you want. If I wanted to connect all these,
Right.
come up here, join regions, create it, and now it's made it one singular file that I can drop and drag anywhere I want.
Right. Right.
So
Got
a lot of, I don't want to do that, but it's just very easy. And then at the end of it, I figure out the order that I want. So I may record the articles or the stories in any different format, but then I'm physically dragging and dropping to kind of place them where I want them to be.
Right. And I want to get into that exactly, like how you do create like this unique experience, because like you said, you're not going to just read the articles verbatim. So let me just actually switch back to my screen for a second, because I have a little presentation here, and I just want to make sure I hit all these points. Okay, so now, and also we had some questions, so I want to hit those, but we talked about a bunch of these things already. But the question was, let's see, what was the name of the company that you paid $12 to? So I answered it to everyone, but that's Buzzsprout.
Buzzsprout, right? Yeah. And again, there's a bunch of companies that host podcasts, and I think they're probably fairly similar. This was, of the few that I analyzed, the easiest. For somebody like me who didn't know what I was doing at the beginning, it's literally just, you drag your file, you drop it in, it gives you a place to post the description, and then it's there. And they've made the process very easy. I have found.
Yep. No, that's pretty much seems like one of the only names in town. I mean, there's also this Anchor app where I think it's actually like more based around an app functionality. So if you weren't editing on GarageBand, but if you were just recording on your phone, that would work. But since you're on GarageBand, I think you want that desktop interface to upload stuff. But we use Buzzsprout too. It's fantastic. So the thing I want to point out, I didn't really explain this earlier, but any voice activated device, when you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, like Siri, for example, can call up the radio. And I know that you promote this very heavily. I see it in every newsletter, I think, pretty much, the podcast, which is great. We need to start doing that. Do they tell you, is there any way to get a number of like how many people are actually doing that to listen? That would be really cool metric.
I don't know. I haven't looked at that specific of a metric yet. I know Buzzsprout keeps pretty good reporting stats as to who heard it on, Google Podcasts or who heard it on iTunes or that sort of thing. But I don't know that it says like how many people asked Alexa to play, the Henrico News Minute. I do that sometimes in my own house. Hey, Alexa, play it, just to see, to make sure it's still there. But it makes it very convenient for people. And you feel like you've got something that's out there to the world because it is.
Yep, it's super cutting edge. I mean, to be able to do that voice activate thing just makes it way cooler to be an advertiser on it. So now let's check this out for a second. I want to just listen to like the first few minutes or minute or so of this episode, because it seems like your structure is basically to have this canned music intro, where the guy introduces the podcast and then you do your overview and then an ad. Is that fair structure?
Yeah, that's how I've done it. And I don't know if I've done 230 of these now, so maybe it's getting a little stale to hear the same thing, the same intro every day. I don't know. I guess probably at some point I'll mix it up. But
you can always mix it up. Sure.
Yeah. I think it gave it, I thought, a little more of a professional feel. And honestly, I paid like $30 to get that professional voiceover.
Right. So, okay, I want to play this through a little bit more. I didn't really let much of it play when it was on my phone because I wasn't sure how good it sounded, but I think this usually sounds pretty good. And while it's playing, please drop your questions in and I'll be watching them. I'm going to try to catch up on those.
From the Lakeside Newsroom of the Henrico Citizen, your hometown news source since 2001. This is the Henrico News Minute with publisher Tom Lappas.
Some good news on the unemployment front in Henrico and where you can go in the county to get rapid COVID-19 tests. We'll have details in today's Henrico News Minute for Thursday, October 29th, 2020. It's brought to you today by the Steve Dowdy Insurance Agency with State Farm.
And now for the news.
Okay, so that was a couple things there that I just want to point out. I mean, just to bring up your screenshot again. So you've got these breaks that are the female, and I think that's cool to have a different voice in there every once in a while.
Yeah, and and again, there's a ton of sites where you can buy just individual audio snippets, and that's where I got that. Right. I think from a site called soundsnap.com.
So easy, right? It's just a download away most of this stuff.
They've got thousands, and honestly, there's a ton that actually come with GarageBand too. So
right.
You may not even have to spend any money to do it.
Right.
But yeah, you can do this whole thing very inexpensively, and I found without a giant time commitment,
right.
Which has been very important to me. I'm basically I'm the only full-time person right now in my company, so.
Right.
For me, it wouldn't make sense to do something that was going to take me 5 hours a day because it's, but I wanted to have something that I could do daily, that I could fit into my schedule, that made sense, that's going to reach a different audience, and was relatively simple.
For sure. I got to ask this, because for me, this is the first practical question, and I feel like it's on a lot of people's minds, is like, how much time does it actually take you to do a 5 to 8 minute episode is what the final product is, right?
Yeah, that's typically. Well, I mean, and now I've been doing it, like I said, 230 episodes, so I've kind of got it down. But what I try to do, honestly, these days, because I'm working from home, is at the end of the night, I'll come up after my kids are asleep and look at everything that we've published that day, which typically is 5 to 8 pieces.
Right.
Some original, some press release rewrites or whatever, but. And I'll just sit down and hammer them out, record them. That takes maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes at most.
Right.
Just that minor editing to get everything lined up right, figure out where I want to put something, record the intro, drag and drop the sponsor at the end.
Right.
And then you just export it. It becomes a file. Then I go to Buzzsprout, I upload the file. I type in like a little description of all the stories that are there,
right?
So that people go.
That goes here.
Exactly. Yes. So just a paragraph or so about everything that's in there.
This is great. Then you got the link back to this contribute page.
Yeah, and I link to our advertiser, and then and then you can schedule it. So I schedule it for the next day at whatever time, 5 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
And that way, from my perspective, I know that I don't have to rush up and do it in the morning first thing. It's done.
Right.
I don't have to think about it. There are some mornings that I just don't get a chance to do it at night, so I do it in the morning.
Gotcha.
I would say yeah, I mean, most of the time, start to finish, maybe between 30 minutes and 45 minutes for me. Now, if you're just starting, maybe it's going to take you an hour or so, but I have found it to be not too difficult. Now, the other thing that I do is then I'll go to our website and create an article, and embed the link in that. So it's a process there.
Right. And I wanted to show that, but yeah, I mean, I think once you basically get this template, though, you've got the music in the background. You can just mute that channel while you're recording the new episode, and then just copy these breaks and move them around. So like once you have this basic template of the 4 tracks, I think the turnaround probably goes much faster. But the first time you do it, it's going to take some time. Like in the beginning, how long would you spend on it? Like over an hour, probably, right?
Yeah, probably about an hour, just because it was new. But even then, it wasn't that. I probably thought it might take a little longer. After I did a couple episodes, I kind of felt like, okay, I think I got the swing of this. But yeah, like you said, the template pretty much stays. All I have to do is drag the transitional pieces, because the audio is going to be different. I'll just delete that top row of audio, drag the marker over to the right, and start recording, and then
exactly. Right. Okay. Very cool. And I just want to demonstrate. So you take embed code and put it on every individual article to create this.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Buzzsprout is it's just a one-click thing. There's a button, there's a line that says "click here to embed this one episode." You click, it gives you the code, and you just plop the code in on the back end, and it's there. So you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, this is nice for sure. So I like having it on each individual article just to get it to as many people as possible. Then it's something you can send out in the newsletter. That's like a unit. It's an article. But one thing that I've seen elsewhere, I just want to show you the Acorn. What they do is they have a playlist. Are you aware that that's possible?
I have not looked into that, but yeah, I think there's a bunch of different things, right, that you can do. That's a nice look.
It looks cool. Yeah, I mean, they have a really long right column, but if you have room on the right column here, I would say put it anywhere up towards the top, and then you're promoting it every day of the week.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
We could try that. So cool. All right. Well, that's part of what these conferences are about, to share ideas with the presenter. So, okay. I don't think I have many other questions right now. Anything else that you want to show before I talk a little bit about audio articles?
No, I don't think that's. I guess the only other thing would be the monetary aspect of it.
Right.
And initially I started this not really thinking of money. I was just thinking of another way that we can reach people, and hopefully that at some point would turn into a monetization opportunity. But we now sell 3 levels of sponsorship. So there's the title sponsorship, and I sell them all on a monthly basis. So you commit to a month. I don't want to be having to figure out on Tuesday this ad runs and Thursday. That'd be a little too much to keep track of. So we sell them monthly. I think our rates are like $150 for the low level, $450 for the mid level, and $750 for the top sponsorship level. And primarily the difference there is, the top sponsor gets like a 30-second spot and gets named at the beginning. The others, the low level, just gets a mention, and then the other one gets like a 15-second spot. So, I tried to keep it simple because we're small and because I don't have the manpower to be, fitting in 10 different ads or anything like that. But, we've had a county agency come to us. They reserved the mid-level for 2 months and ran that within the last 4 months total.
Right.
And we've got a nonprofit who's running the mid-level one next month, starting on Monday. So, and these are people who just have been listening to it and liked it.
Right.
And I think I like having it as an option because you may have an advertiser who's used to doing radio spots, and now you have a way to do that for them. Or you may have advertisers that have never heard a spoken ad, an audio ad, and they really like how it sounds. It just presents their business in a different way, So I think there's certainly potential there to grow a podcast and have it pay off for you.
Right. And that, at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for. So I just want to clarify something. You talked about the different levels. Are you just selling the podcast alone, or do those levels come with other digital products?
Well, we kind of revamped everything a month or 2 ago, and now we sell everything. We show everything separately. I mean, I'll package something together if somebody wants a web ad and a podcast ad, but we price them all separately now.
Gotcha.
So that they're all kind of their own thing.
Okay.
And typically, if somebody's going to buy multiple platforms, then we'll give them a discount. But this way, in our media kit, it makes it much easier. That if you want to be on the podcast, this is what it looks like.
Right. Gotcha.
I guess I would say we do it. So we do a daily email. We do 2 daily emails, one just for the podcast, and then one that links to whatever articles we've written in the past 24 hours. So our podcast sponsors do get an ad on that podcast email, which is a second level of exposure for them.
Right, for sure. Yep. No, I love the way that you've gotten creative with your digital advertising. You've just pretty much migrated that whole advertising audience to this new plan that they can either buy in bundles or one-off, I guess. So that's very cool. Please, anyone, if you have any questions about pricing or how he sells this, how he pitches this, let us know. But when we were talking earlier, you were saying like mostly these advertisers are approaching you to be in this podcast, right?
That's what's happened so far, and we've been in a situation where my primary salesperson had moved on in February, right before COVID hit, and
right.
And so when that happened, I didn't even have time to really transition much. So we were kind of without a salesperson for a number of months, and now just recently.
Right.
So I was trying to kind of pick and choose opportunities that I could pursue myself, but I'd rather not, be in the sales game if I can help it.
Right.
So I've now brought 2 people on board. So we're just kind of getting started here in the last month or 2 of having them proactively go out and
Right.
have those conversations. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it shouldn't be that challenging for us to get at least 2 sponsors a month, from this
Right.
point forward.
Right.
For this.
Excellent. Yeah, and so the cool thing about it's a very flexible model. You've got those sponsor spots, but you can get very creative with those. So that actually kind of leads me to the second area that I wanted to talk about and get your feedback on, Tom, at the same time, but just also present to everyone who's here this idea of using audio articles and turning those into a podcast. Now, it's a very different approach than yours, and I think both have their benefits. When you do it like with audio articles, first of all, what audio articles is, just so that everyone's on the same page, is a tool that we have. It's an automated system for turning text articles on the website into mini podcasts. And what we do on our blog, and quite a few of our customers are doing this, they have this little player on every text article, and you can listen to the story. So, this is a pretty dry topic. It's not like what a newspaper would normally cover, but it's like a feature update that we published last week. And basically, I can listen to the article. So just want to give you a teaser of what this sounds like.
Good active sessions with our new logged in feature. Our hometown is happy to announce that we've released a new update granting our customers more control over subscribers visiting their website, most notably the ability to limit subscribers to a certain number of active sessions, serving as a deterrent to prevent readers from sharing their account with friends or family.
Okay, so that's audio articles. So it's basically this robot that's reading the story to you. And so I think the benefit is that it's totally automated. It's very clear and easy to understand, but it's obvious that it's a robot. So there's a trade-off there to having the personality of an actual narrator. Now, what I'm wondering for Tom, would you ever consider using audio articles to supplement what you already do? Because I think maybe in combination they could be a cool combo.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I mean, I probably sound like a robot sometimes anyway, doing I'm doing my own. But
yeah.
But no, it sounds good. Like you said, it sounds clear, and I do think there are definitely some nights that I'm like, oh, I ran 7 articles that day. The last thing I feel like doing is sitting down even for half an hour to record my whole podcast, and
right.
I just want to go to bed. But so it's nice to have that automated factor, I think, and there's
right.
I'm sure ways you can embed that or different places you can use it. I mean, I think audiobooks are so popular that it makes sense to look at something like this.
For sure. Yeah. And an audiobook, those are very expensive to produce right now. Someone has to sit down and read the whole thing. But yeah, this would be a way to do it on all your stories going forward. And maybe, so like I didn't mean for this to turn into a session of trying to pitch you on audio articles, but it actually kind of worked out that way. So like if you're ever interested, I think a hybrid model could be cool because you have like the woman's voice doing the transition between your stories. You could also just have her do a story and then switch back to you,
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, I feel like kind of sometimes like the Wizard of Oz trying to make the company seem bigger than we are. But,
right. This is
I think there's some value to that. You want to present the most professional foot forward, and having different voices, different, different people can't hurt.
For sure. Yeah, that's exactly why you commissioned to have that intro done by someone different,
Yep.
and why that transition voice is important. So so this is just an idea that we're developing for our own marketing, and that's why I thought I would kind of present it today, because it's just so closely related. So on the audio articles player, there's a button to download the audio file. So that's something that all audio article customers should know if you don't already. You can go to the player and hit download. It actually has to be enabled. It's not by default turned on, but that's a feature that's available to you. So your process would be to simply publish your article on the website. So can you imagine doing this, at night, Tom? Like instead of recording, you download the file and then go over to iMovie is what I would use, because then you can get a movie out of it at the same time.
Yeah.
And I just figure, why not? And use with a news story, you're going to have so many more interesting pictures than I do. I have one picture on each story, but what I've done is drag the audio article in here, and then I've got a second story here. So let's just watch this. So here's our preview. Now I can just hit play.
Active sessions with our new logged in feature. Our hometown is happy to announce that we've released a new update granting our customers more control over subscribers visiting their website.
So I've got a little Ken Burns effect where I'm moving on the image
to a certain number of
it's barely perceptible
serving as a
because it's so
deterrent
slow.
to prevent readers from sharing their account with friends or family.
But I don't do the whole story. I just cut it, transition.
Getting people to pick up your paper with Kevin Slim.
And so the Ken Burns is a little more effective there because it's a shorter time period that I'm staying on this image. But this is just the featured image of the story. And then what I'm thinking is that a newspaper that has like a slideshow on their story, they just run the slideshow as the audio article plays,
Yeah, I think it makes sense for folks. And, a lot of this depends on how much time you've got to devote to different things. But I think the cool part is that you've got a whole range of opportunities. If you only want to do audio,
exactly,
add to it, you can do that too.
Exactly. Yeah, this is taking it to the final form. You don't need to go all the way in with video, but if you get the process down of just downloading audio articles and stitching them together into a podcast, even if you just did it in GarageBand, that would work great. I always like to take it to the final video form, because then you can do anything. Like you can just, edit, share. You can just share the audio, basically, I think. I could just share audio only. So whenever you have video, you automatically have an audio podcast, is the only point I like to make there. Okay, let's see here. So just want to check in, make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay, so we string the audio articles together in iMovie or GarageBand. If you do it in iMovie, you can add images from the articles as visuals. Apply the Ken Burns effect to match the narration. So like this is an idea, like if you have a basketball game and you're at the point in the story where they're talking about one player, if you could like zoom in on him. This is the idea here, is like the real end form for this would be to hopefully one day be able to automate some of these things. So then we could just, you publish a story on your website and we put together this like draft form, and you could kind of like tweak it, but it follows these basic rules of doing, a Ken Burns trying to use facial recognition on the story to like figure out who's important. There's a lot of things that could come of this, but unfortunately you got to do it manually now, and so that's what we do. We just have a video editor that does these things manually for me each week, and from it he can produce this video which comes out of it. So this is like the final form video of what would come out of
Welcome to Our Hometown News Podcast, where we discuss news, events, and tech tips for publishers in the local media industry. You can contact us at our website, www.our-hometown.com, to learn more. Now, for this week's news.
So that's the exact same thing that you have. He recorded that manually, and now he's got this canned intro. And I think the difference would be then you could maybe read your your overview in the beginning, then have your ad, and then have the full version of the articles be read by audio articles or something. Like, there's a lot of ways that we could do this.
Our hometown virtual conference, getting started with audio podcasts.
Now that actually brings up a neat effect, because he adds this effect to make more happen on the screen, where the the bar is moving across the bottom here as the article progresses, and then it reaches the end when that audio article ends and then starts over. But you've got something like that. I think it was on Facebook, right?
Yeah, so one of the things that Buzzsprout does, and again, any of these podcast host sites will do this, is that you can create what's called I guess they call it a visual sound bite.
Right.
So on Buzzsprout, you can just pick I think up to a 30-second segment of your podcast.
Right.
Very easily just set the beginning spot, set the end spot, and add an image to it, and it creates something like this that you can then post on Facebook or Twitter, just to kind of entice people. Like, here's a little snippet of what we're talking about, and here's the link to the whole thing.
Right. And this is exactly my point. Like, this, they actually enable you. See, they're kind of doing what I imagine doing, but they're doing it in a very simple way. They're creating video from audio for you.
Right.
And it's something that you actually, this is way more interesting to look at than just the featured image, like with a slight Ken Burns effect that I was showing. So that's why I was saying to you earlier, I want to use this. So then this is like your filler. Most of the video could just be this.
Right.
And then if you download this as a full video file, you could then drop in. Would they do the whole episode for you, or is it just 16 seconds that they do?
I think they'll only do up to 30 seconds on their server.
Gotcha.
Others may do longer, but
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, it's a nice little trim kind of package. You can put wherever you want it. It is visually, it gets people's attention.
Right. No, totally. What I would do is take this, drag it into iMovie, and then put a picture from the story at the beginning, and then go to switch to this, and then a picture towards the end. It's really cool filler material. So okay, so yeah, we pretty much covered this idea of just turning audio articles into podcasts. Well, I have everyone's attention still. I just want to show you one other idea from another one of our customers and get your feedback on this too, Tom. The Rockaway Fridays with the Wave, what they do is basically have this YouTube episode every week where he sits down in front of the camera. He actually had me on it for a brief period last week. But he sits down using GoToWebinar, talks to the screen, and basically reads through top stories, so he can share his screen at the same time, and show he's really about promoting the print edition, so he shows a lot of the e-edition on this and just talks about articles. It's way more casual than your format, I would say that, and it's a live thing, so what are your thoughts on doing something like this? Just like one take, all straight through, even if you mess up,
Yeah.
Keep going.
I'm probably too much of a perfectionist to try that or to pull it off effectively, but I think it's great. I do think the casual approach is a good one, because especially on social media, I mean, or if you're doing this or Facebook Live,
Right.
People don't want a super stilted, presentation. So I think they appreciate that casual nature of it.
Right.
Facebook Live is something I've thought about doing. It's just another way to generate things, and this looks like it's very similar if he's doing it live. But yeah, I think it's all about just reaching readers and viewers and listeners however you can and however they want to be reached.
Right.
To me, you don't want to spend all your time trying to be everything to everyone, but if there's something that you feel like you can do effectively that is going to work, reach people differently, I say do it. Try it, see how it goes, and then everybody has to kind of set their own parameters of what the expectations are. Like I said, if I was only getting 10 listeners a day, at some point I would probably say this is not worth my 45 minutes. I'm going to try something different. But
for sure,
if you get a core group of people who are interested in it and keep coming back, then I think it's something you can monetize and fits into your schedule.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's about the audience, and even if it's relatively small, I mean, you could call hundreds of people small. I wouldn't call that small, but like whatever you have tuning in every week, then you're talking to. It's more like one-to-one. It changes the whole publishing experience. I in my view, that's how, like, we even have our customer newsletter. We have the same people that open that every week, and it's just like, it's really nice to see that loyalty. And like what we're kind of thinking about for this is if we could get that participation to the next level where they're not just watching, but they're actually asking questions of the editor, of the publisher in real time. That's where I really want to get him, and he wants to go there too, but we're stepping into it. So basically, this is a pre-recorded thing right now. It's not actually live, but he does do it in one take just because that's how he's always done it. So how do you think that would go for you? Like if you did something like that where you opened up, only to people that have donated or something, like kind of create a new almost subscription product where you could join Tom once a week or whatever, and like in this format. Like, how do you think that would go in terms of like people asking questions?
Yeah, I like the idea a lot. In fact, the last couple of months I've been trying to think about how to, can I do a Facebook Live on every Friday afternoon for an hour? Just kind of like you open it up. People have questions. Maybe I talk a little bit about some of the articles we've posted in the last week, some other things we're looking forward to doing next week. I think it's important that people hear from us in spoken word because, and us, I mean journalists in general, because they don't get to do that. And I think there's obviously a lot of distrust of the media. And so, people don't understand the process that goes into reporting an article or just any number of things that I almost feel like you could almost kind of teach like a journalism 101 course once a week and just go through the basics of how you come up with what it is that you're covering and all of that. And I think that breeds or would breed a sense of trust, from some people who maybe wouldn't trust you otherwise or just don't understand the process. I think a lot of times we sort of assume that people understand the process, but they don't. Why would they? Because they've never been through it themselves,
Right. Very true. I did not expect you to go there, but now that I think about it, that's exactly what I love about it. And that's why, I've been doing so much more just like with our company, with video, just like increasing the transparency as much as possible and just like showing them, how we do this. It creates a whole new level of trust there. So journalists could definitely benefit from that. So I think if you wanted to do this, Facebook Live would be awesome. There's another company, the Wilson County News, that we talked about. We talked to them last week. They do Facebook Live every week. They're very consistent with it, and they do a little bit of that, talking about their process. Well, they talk about the stories in the paper, but also the process for gathering information. They kind of had a dedicated episode for that. So, okay, very cool. I just kind of wanted to go over this program. So I pretty much explained it. Friday morning review. They're highlighting the print edition in this video. The reason I'm bringing this up, I mean, it's primarily a video format, but now what's possible, of course, like I talked about earlier, when you create video, you can also create a podcast in the process. So that's what they're doing. Sometimes they'll interview local election candidates, advertiser interviews. I think if we talk to the people on here, I believe it was Nick, who does a 40-minute weekly podcast. He probably does more of the interview type format. Now, is that something that you do at all on Henrico News Minute, or that's something you do elsewhere?
Yeah, I've not done it on the News Minute, but we have had a couple other podcasts that are sort of on hold right now because our part-time employee who's been doing them has some medical issues in her family she's taking care of. But she had been doing a podcast. It was sort of like a 15-minute conversation with we started it initially where she was talking to different nonprofit heads in our county. 15-minute conversation just for people to get to know whoever, newsmaker or nonprofit, business owner, whatever. And then she had another podcast that was a weekly that she would do a sort of a half an hour interview. And those are things that's kind of the direction that I thought I would head initially. But then I realized for me, that was going to be too time consuming to try to set up, one big interview every week or have to edit it a bunch of different ways. I settled on the News Minute idea because it was something quicker that I could handle, that it was going to be just part of my regular routine without a whole lot of extra effort. But I think if you're in a position to do a longer one, I think it makes sense to take, whatever your top story of the week was and go in depth with it and talk to whoever you interviewed in that article, let people hear it. I love that multimedia aspect. You want people to read the story and then see a video about it, or hear the people talking in their own words. That's
for sure. Value. That's true. Yeah, there's a lot to that. I think that when they're doing the thing is, when you have a canned process that works for you, that's what you should go for. That's what's most important. So I think you've got the process down and you've got this audience. You could at any time release an hour-long interview with a local, like a whole series of candidates or something like that. You interview, like, there's no reason that it has to be a minute every week. You could have like a special edition, but the key is you've got the audience there. So,
that's right.
Advertiser interviews, that's just another idea. That's something that we're seeing at Wilson County News, but I think they're going to do it more with the Wave because, if you are using GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting or Zoom, I don't think you can do it with Facebook Live. But these other, teleconferencing platforms, they can be at their office. They could still be at the restaurant. They could even, show people what they're doing at the restaurant, show some like dishes, whatever they want to advertise. They can just do it from their office. They don't need to come in and see you. And I think that's what they did with the candidates interview last week on the Wave. And then we just talked about, if you have any kind of paid model, inviting subscribers to join as attendees. Okay, I think we pretty much ran out of time, so we're good. That's pretty much all I wanted to hit on. Anything else you want to bring up, Tom, today on podcasting and just getting started? Any advice you have?
Yeah, I just think if it's something that you're interested in, take the time to go for it. Like I said, I got started by just buying like a $60 microphone that plugs, USB plug in to my Mac. That's all I needed, to get going. And, you can spend a lot more money than that, but I don't think you need to. Just kind of figure out what works within your schedule, and make it what you want it to be. I don't think, if you don't want to do a daily podcast, then don't. If you don't want to do a weekly one, then don't. It needs to be something that you enjoy doing and that you feel passionate about doing, or else you're not going to want to keep doing it. So that would be my advice. Just, give it a shot. If it doesn't work out for whatever reason, at least but I'd say go for it.
Right on. Yeah, man. Sounds good. I hope everyone does some experimenting and at least opens up GarageBand or whatever video or audio editor you have. They're usually pretty easy to learn and get going with. Now, I just wanted to quickly, in the last 2 minutes here, just wrap it up, show you our schedule for virtual conferences. I'm really ramping this up just because there's so many different things that I want to talk about before the end of the year and as we go into the new year. So we're kind of doing these every 2 or 3 weeks through the holidays. Just different webinars on growing your subscriber base. We've got 6 innovations for local online news. We have one dedicated to just audio articles, kind of different times of the week throughout November and December and into January. And just some background on our hometown. We're a family business. We were founded in upstate New York in 1997. We currently manage hundreds of newspaper websites and native apps, including the Henrico Citizen, the site, and the app. We do all our hosting on Amazon Web Services. We have an integration with Adobe InDesign for reverse publishing, Google Docs add-on for easy publishing on the web, iOS and Android apps that are integrated. And just, I always like to make this point that we're, number one, focused on customer support, and we approach that several ways. for a lot of our customers, we take their PDF every week and deconstruct it and publish all the articles as HTML on the website. So we're actively helping them produce their website each week. We are getting really heavy into the virtual conferences, like I said. So this is more like less helping publishers with the day-to-day publishing and more like on the strategic level, where do they want to take their brand, and like what we talked about today, getting into new mediums. And then we also have weekly office hours. My name is Matt Larson. I'm the president and CEO, and you can contact me here if you have any questions. All right. And I'll leave the go-to webinar going for a little bit if you have any questions. But Tom, we'll let you go for today. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate you having me. Enjoyed it.
All right. All right, man. Take care. Talk to you later.